Welcome back to another coaching session with Caldini. Today we're going to be focusing on blind versus blind play, specifically big blind defending versus small blind RFI, and we're going to delve into the post flop tree as well after pre-flop. Hope you enjoy.
Right, let's go. There's not too many hands, which is good. This is the full database still, so only 16 is good. And again, not all of these are going to be mistakes, but they might be. They might be. Can you see everything clearly, Connor? Yeah?
Yeah,
Everything's looking good. Audio's good.
all good.
Yeah, what do you think?
I really wanted to 3-bet this. I probably should call. It looks very deep though. Looks like it could be FT or.
Yeah, it's a pretty high blind level. What would you do in chips? We'll start with chips, and then we can move up through the risk premiums.
I think I'd 3-bet or call in chips.
But you would pure play this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to tell where it is in the tournament, but I would do the same, so that's good. It is a mystery. This is going to be pretty much impossible to figure out without knowing where we're at in the tournament, what the mystery bounty's worth. Um, we could maybe do a session on that though at some point. Mystery bounties,
Oh yeah, I'd
pretty
love to do
understood
that
these.
in HRC.
Yeah, yeah. So I agree. I agree. I'm happy with that one. Or this one.
Yeah, it's pure play. Deeper. I mean, you could get away with it, I guess, but in position, the high card should call.
Yeah. So similar to the small blind limp call we looked at, the floor is going to be offsuit 7x, but we need to make expansions across the
Higher.
queens and kings.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I would play this because it's the 3.5. But it's probably the bottom. It's pretty close. But we'll fly through a couple of hands, then we'll jump into some sims just to give you an idea. But I don't want to spend too long on this. Heads up. What do you think about this one?
That's ridiculous. I don't know why I folded that. That's
Yeah,
just there was probably someone at the door or something.
they always come when your heads up, don't they? Cheeky cunts.
Yeah.
Pardon my French. Three-handed, I'm assuming. FT rather than
Oh, this is
it must be an FT.
yeah. I think folding's fine here.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
It's just such a tough situation with the button on 10 big blinds. But I guess we should probably defend something suited. Suited gapper. It's a pretty good hand post flop in position.
Yeah. What do you think the fold frequency is going to be roughly with this kind of distribution?
Um,
Is it 25? Is it 50? Is it 75?
Somewhere between 25 and 50, I'd say.
Hmm. So 50 at the most, 25 at the absolute lowest, yeah.
Like 35
Ish.
maybe.
Yeah. So even within that context, if we think about the absolute top of that range in terms of the fold frequency, so let's take the 50% fold. If you are in game and you come to that conclusion, I'm just going to map that onto a range that I know, that I understand. So if you don't know what this range looks like,
Button
you
range.
do know roughly what a 50% range is exactly. It's a button opening range. Would you open this on the button if we're deep?
Yeah.
Yep, I would. So if you think the fold frequency is 50%, it's still going to be in.
Right.
Um,
That's
this
it's
would
a
only
good
come
way
out
to
if the
kind
fold
of
frequency was 60. what you're saying, sorry, Connor.
Yeah, that's a good way to map to try in game to figure out what percentage of the deck is what, because you should know your button, cutoff, hijack, lowjack ranges and what percentage they are. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
This is just another one of the millions of examples in which knowing your opening ranges down to a T is super valuable. Just mapping them onto different situations, just understanding what a 50% range looks like. Knowing that a cut-off range with offsuit 9s and suit 6s is around 35%. Knowing that can help you in a million different situations. That's not to say the fold frequency might not be a little bit higher, but I think above 50% is kind of difficult, right? Big blind versus small blind. We can take a
So
look
what
though.
should it be? Three-handed there. Do you want to have a look
The
on
defending
GTO?
range. Yeah, we'll do, because there's not many hands. We'll fly through them, then we'll look at a couple of sims.
All right.
But yeah, we'll get an answer for us. Actually, there's a little bit more. We've got
Bunch of king deuce off there. I've clearly.
yeah. You know, let's go to the pull some charts up. Yeah, what do you think about this king deuce?
Yeah. I offsuit deuce X is just so bad. I thought it might be out probably in game. I mean, clearly I do think even the king deuce off is out. I don't know. It's probably close. I wouldn't be
Yep.
surprised if it's king three off though. That's what I was thinking it was.
Yeah, it is close. It's going to be close, but one thing which is going to drive this in is the raise size for me. So because this is a 3x, I'm quite shallow. I'm going to defend this. But I'm just going to make some notes because we are seeing a lot of offsuit king x. So big blind versus small blind RFI. I don't think we can get a 3 at 30. Yeah, it's a 3.5, but we can look at 25 bigs, which is not exactly the same. But at 25, if he makes it 3x, it's in there. It's actually jamming a bunch. Jamming a little bit, but it's calling a bunch. Which is kind of sick. If we look at the EV, it's not worth that much. Like, it's pretty close, but it's still 0.1. It's still 10 big blinds per 100.
Huh. It's worth more than king queen six. It's worth more than queen six.
Yeah, just queen 6 before we see this feel a little bit more of a slam dunk call.
I would, yeah. So when you flop top pair with your bottom kicker, you know you can't flop top pair with king deuce.
With the deuce, you mean?
With yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd be impressed if you flop top pair with king deuce with a deuce. You could flop, I guess you could flop quads.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah.
So I would have thought queen six is better. Yeah. I guess because blind and blind, just the king high is worth more. Just the showdown, if you manage to get the showdown with king high, it's just worth more. Or it's more.
One thing I would say before we actually, it's not showing me the equity realization until we go post flop. I tell you what, I'm going to skip this. I don't want to dive too deep into this, but when you're in position and you're quite shallow, the equity realization is going to be pretty good, which is why these defending ranges are always going to be pretty linear. Now, playability is important, but being in position and being on the shallower side, it's a little bit less important than being out of position, being 100 big blinds deep. So they're not. It's not. I think you could manage your post flop as well. I think if we were to look at these hands, how they're doing for you specifically in spots like this, I think you would be definitely above 0 in terms of the EV. They're just a little bit tricky to play, but yeah, I think you can manage it. So I would definitely be defending these. But yeah, they're not worth a ton. King 4 offsuit. We're quite deep, and it's a 3.5x. This is going to be a 4. So against the 4, it's out, but it can 3-bet a little bit for the King 4. If we go down to 50, we look at a 3.5 again. This raise size is really the key with these types of hands. I'm just going to make a note of that for you. Just be very vigilant with the raise sizings, because obviously the position is not changing, right? Some ICM can drive these hands out, but you know we're 60, 120 there. This is probably going to be in, I would imagine. Mostly call, a little bit of 3-bet. You wanted to see the 8-5 suited, right, as well? So 3-handed.
Well, we kind of saw it there. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So button shallow. We've got about 30 bigs. Small blind's got chunks. It's not a million miles away. Yeah, the fall frequency is pretty high. I don't think that's too crazy. If we look at the risk premium, it's going to be very elevated for us against the small blind. And this distribution's probably better for us. So it might be the case that in-game, being a little bit shorter, the big blind's a little bit, the button's a little bit shorter, which is worse for us. This might even come out. But I'm not too concerned about trying to nail the fold frequency at the start, but definitely try and do what you did earlier, Connor, where you just map the rough fold frequency onto something you do know.
Yeah.
If you think it's 50, or you think it's 25, or you think it's 70. But yeah, this is probably going to be very, very close. This one's not too bad. Defending a little more there. So yeah, I would defend. I think you're going to struggle to get above 50% for the folds. Looked at that one. This one's interesting. What do you think about this one?
Oh, that's a shove, is it?
Mm-hmm.
A 4 big blind shove. Can we fold any suited hand? If you could fold suited hands, I'm trying to think. I guess we just MDF, right? It's 3 to win 7. I think 75%. Probably can't fold any suited hands.
So talk me through the calculation you've just done in terms of MDF
No.
in detail.
No.
So be a little bit careful with MDF. Because when you apply MDF to like a pre-flop defending range, what MDF does essentially, like one of its roles is you nullify the EV of your opponent's bluffs on the river, for example. So when your opponent has just to keep it simple, let's say he has a polarized range, he's value betting the nuts or complete air. Meeting MDF is going to stop the complete air from printing a bunch of money, right? The problem is when you apply that to pre-flop, to flops, turns, the EV of the bluffs for your opponent is always above 0. Sorry, let me reword that. The equity is always above 0. So if you were to meet MDF against a flop jam, let's say like you you raise the button, the big blind calls, and then he donk jams the flop. If you just meet MDF there to nullify the EV of his air, he's going to free roll all of that extra equity. And even the absolute worst hands in this range, you're going to have a little bit of equity, right? They can hit backdoors. Maybe he has a draw, maybe he has a good shot, whatever it might be. So usually you've got to overdefend MDF. So I would be careful with using the MDF calculation for a spot like this. Which makes it hard because I think the best answer is going to be reps with a trainer. Because these spots, I feel like these spots come up a lot, but even looking at it, I'm a little bit uncertain. I haven't studied these kind of spots too much. I think running, like you've got GtoWizard still, right?
Do I have GtoWizard?
Yeah, you're still using it
Yeah, of course. You can get 10% off in the link below.
with code. With code what? What's the code for your 10%?
That's just the link in the
That's just a
description.
link. Perfect. There you go. Yeah, I would just run some sub 10 big blind drills against RFI.
So what's the answer here anyway?
I think I would call. Yeah, I think it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be hard to fold too much. The fold frequency is going to be very low. Where does this hand sit? It's not going to be quite the same as an opening range because it's going to be more of a linear defend, right? You might prefer king deuce over this, but I think this is going to be a little bit too high up just because I think the fold frequency against this size is going to be super low. So I would defend. But I'm not too sure, to be honest. Sounds like you're more in the call camp with me. Just looking at it.
Yeah.
That's the opening range. I just think I think it's tough to fold this. Even when you look at a spot near the bubble, in the money, we just don't have a risk premium against the small blinds because we have so many more chips than them. Yeah, it's just a small bet. It's going to be very, very modest. So 20% folds. Yeah, it's worth a chunk. It's worth a chunk.
Shit.
The MDF in this sim, because the pot's 3.5, the bet's slightly over pot. Technically, the MDF would be obviously against pot. It's a 50% defend, right? Slightly more than pot. We fold slightly more, so you would expect like maybe 55-60% fold. But it's just not. It's not the kind of situation we can apply that.
Yeah, because I guess we get to see. Yeah. It's no, I get it. Yeah, I was just trying to make some sort of calculation. It was more not MDF but pot odds.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just equity versus range. Very simple. Anything about this one? We time out on this one.
Yeah.
Looks okay.
That's okay. Yeah. This one's in.
What this one?
This one should be in.
Yeah, I'll defend again. 3x, king deuce plus. This one.
Queen 7 off. I think it's going to be the bottom. Although Queen 6 off was in. No, it's like Queen 4 off is bottom, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't mind it against the 4. It's close. As long as you don't fold against a 3.5, I think you'll be golden there. See, against these 4 big blind opens, it's pretty close. But yeah, let's move on. That looks fine. High blind level, probably gonna pull some hands out. King Deuce off again, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck offsuit King X, right?
The low ones in it, yeah.
See, I think
That's a
offsuit King
min
X
raise
just
as
get a
well.
little bit sharper. It is, yeah.
Fuck's sake. What are you doing? You waiting
Just
for me to
taking
say
some
something?
notes. No, I'm just taking some notes, mate. But we'll crack on with the big blind stuff. I feel like we're on the same page with those. You weren't like a million miles away. The only one that was far off was the 9-4 suited.
Yeah. That could have been a bubble as well, though. You never know.
The 9-4 suited one.
Yeah.
Thing is, because we cover by so much and he has 4 bigs, the risk premium's not going to be very high. So let's have a look, like 25% left. I don't think we can do that, unfortunately. That sucks.
There we go. 4-6.
There's 10% left. And
And we've only
we have
6
6
blinds.
bigs.
And it's still a
Yeah.
call.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is interesting.
Final 3 tables, it's in. With 6 bigs.
Wow.
So yeah, we should call. And to be honest, I need to brush up on those sub
Try near
10
bubble.
big blind ranges. I'm not trying near bubble, mate. There's no sims there for near the bubble. If that was the distribution, like 4 big blinds versus 6 on the bubble, maybe it's a fold. Like, yeah, we can get behind that one. That might be the only situation.
Run the sim. No, I'm joking.
Right. Got some new hands. Beautiful.
Dun, dun, dun.
Looks like it might be an FT.
Was the there's a what's EQ equity realization between different stack types? Someone in the chat wants to see the difference.
Like with some sims.
I think
See the actual.
he wrote that question while we were looking at a particular sim.
Yeah, the equity realization in GtoWizard. The display. It's not something I've used too much. But I can try and take a quick look. See, obviously this is... sorry, I'm all over the place. Can't speak English. At 100 big blinds, the button opens, which is the big blind defending range. What you would hope is that when you go to EQR, it just gives you it. It doesn't, unfortunately. I think this is where you have to go post flop. This is only on this flop. Guess we could do this. This shows us our equity realization on different flops, but in terms of specific hands, I'm not sure how to dive in. But yeah, if anyone knows how to pull that up, let me know. Yeah, it's gonna be higher out of position when we're shallower. It's gonna be higher in position, generally speaking, the equity realization in position. But when you're shallower, the positional disadvantage is just lessened by the stack depth. So those offsuit disconnect combos. Just gonna do better. What do you think about this one?
For leading, is it? Leading turn?
Just all of it, just flop. Pretty standard.
Yeah. I guess if we have leads, it's going to be on the higher heart. I probably actually is a lot of leading here, now that you mention it.
I'd probably check. Should be a high turn barrel for the ace, especially when we're shallow like this. What do you think on the river?
Bet big. I think this is like FT or something. Or this seems. I mean, there's 5 missing seats. Maybe it's FT too. FT bubble. But so I want to bet big, right? So in Chippy V probably overbet. But in ICM maybe like 80% pot is probably fine. If it's ICM.
Yeah.
Oh, I checked. Oh, I don't mind the check either actually, because a lot of his ace-x wants to check back on this particular ace turn, and then when check to again, they feel they have to go for value. But yeah, when we shove, then do they hero fold? Or, like, also, they might check back the king of hearts, or not the king of hearts, but like the queen of hearts 9 or something, and then feel like they have to bluff me off an 8 on the river. I don't mind checking that. I don't mind the check either.
Yeah. So when you do check or flush on the river, like what's mostly what you're going to use? Going to be hands like this?
Yeah, blocking the 8.
Yeah, nice. This is how I would do it. So if I'm going to check or flush on the river, it's going to be with 8x of hearts, mostly. I think the other combos want to bet. But it is a little bit of a tricky spot because I do think the barrel frequency for the imposition player is going to be pretty high. I am a little bit concerned when he checks the turn. His hand, like his range is way too middling. So betting is going to be still pretty good. I think he's just going to have a lot of jack
Yeah.
X. I think he's going to have a lot of even kings, queens, tens, nines, a little bit of 8x, pocket fives, which you're just never going to reopen. I don't think he's forced to reopen the action with a hand like ace 3 on the river.
Maybe we
But
should
I do
bet
think he's.
small, so as
I think
well.
betting small's reasonable. Blocking the 8, yeah, I agree. But so you mentioned the final table earlier in terms of that maybe driving the bet size down. But if his range is capped, it shouldn't really matter much. Like if he just doesn't have coverage of flushes, no amount of risk premium is going to change the fact our equity is 100%. Right? So the EV of the pot's still going to be 100%. I'm not saying that the ICM won't force the range as a whole to use smaller bet sizes, and therefore most of the flushes get dropped in that block, but I would consider jamming, even if it's later, because I just don't think he's going to have, king 10 of hearts much. I think those should bet the 10 a lot. But in terms of which hands, which flushes don't want to jam, blocking the 8's a pretty good answer, I think. So I think check's fine. I think block's good. I think this is just the nut hand we have on the river that's going to be flexible, I would imagine. So we can check chips if you like, and then check like a final 2 tables model. See what it says. Jack 8 deuce. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one.
Ugh.
There's two bets, but I wouldn't have two bets. 8x of hearts. It's literally only our combo. It's like, fuck you. You should two bet this specific combo only. Everything else is pure call. Yeah, I'd mostly check on the turn. I understand what you're saying about the high card heart. I'd mostly check.
What is happening? Why is there no leading on the turn, and then there's other situations where the high hard card heart hits the turn and there's a lot of leading? Is the jack too low? Does it need to be 3 high hearts if you change a deuce to a queen or something?
I think that would probably help, but I also think us being very shallow is going to help. Like if we're 15 to 20 big blinds pre.
Okay.
I think it's going to help a lot. I think you're going to see it when the defending range on the flop is very tight too. So when you think about maybe a double Broadway board that already has an ace on it, so something like ace queen 8 two-tone, where we check call a pretty strong range. And then the turns like the king of hearts. That's where I'd have some leads. But yeah, when we're this deep in the tens and ace, I think it's just a little bit tricky. But yeah, high frequency barrel for the button. He checks. Solver does want to jam in chips. That's not too surprising, right? If we look at the flushes.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I likes checking the 9x of hearts. That's going to be related to some blockers. What I've seen mostly in these kind of spots is that the flush with a pair, just in terms of heuristic, is going to be the most passive option. It's not to say that the pairs with a flush on the river when we're out of position always check or anything, but that's usually what I've seen from the checking range. Is going to be hands like this. So I would have played it the same. I would have bet the 9x of hearts and I would have checked these. So I would have made a mistake with this spot. But on average, I think you're going to do better with that strategy. Yeah, we kind of mentioned these types of hands, right? I think it's going to happen a lot. It doesn't like to block though, so block sucks.
Yeah.
If we look at the EV, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Not a big blunder. I don't mind it. Did you say you thought this was final two tables, potentially?
I mean, just the 5 missing seats.
Try this one. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be better than a chippy VSIM. And we can see if the size does get driven down. But if we look at the risk premium before we take a look, yeah, it's around 10%. So it's pretty significant. Now we're leading. Polarize is kind of cool.
So we're leading now. Why? Because you lower the stack.
Pretty much the same stack, unless I've missed something. But the risk premium is driving in some bets. But the ranges aren't the same as well. So to isolate the risk premium impact, we would have to keep the ranges the same. Like our pre-flop range is much tighter.
Yeah.
Which I think might play a role. But yeah, I'm not too sure. It's
Yeah.
hard to say.
When we continue the flop, then we just have more flushes naturally because our range is tighter.
So like B40, but let's give it some more sizings. Yeah, so like B40, 150. We check. So final two tables we check. The range is just, it's not jamming. So to your point, to your credit, you said you would bet smaller. You can still bet 150 though. Like if we look at some of these flushes, still going for 150. I think the previous sim we were checking a lot too, right? It was very polar, all in or check.
Checking more than the previous one, I think.
Yeah, looks good. Anything about this one?
Um, I don't think it's a bad fold. He checks back usually with equity. Like he should be checking back with some sort of equity on the flop. So five doesn't really do much. It's usually he has like some 10x or queens. It's probably like queens or jacks. Even some king x. If this is the same. No, this is the home game. Should probably filter this out.
Yeah. So we have 6 outs, right? No, sorry, we have 5 outs. So if he's only betting a pair, like if his entire range is stronger pairs, this is probably going to come out, right? I'm just not convinced. I think it's going to be difficult for a pair to come out against a small size. One thing that I would say in terms of defending the fold is the board's really favorable for the imposition player. So these are the types of boards where pairs come out on the flop, so I don't think it's ridiculous to assume. We check a lot on the turn, so there's a lot of stronger hands to defend than this, and therefore these kind of weak pairs without backup. Not that there is any backup on this board, but I don't think it's crazy to assume some pairs might come out. I just think it's hard against a small bet for us to check fold a pair. Um, I would call before seeing the sim, but like, where would you draw the line with hands like this in terms of pairs? So, what would be the worst pair you would continue?
I mean, probably continue with an eight.
So, any 8x, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can value bet an 8 there, right? I don't think that's crazy. So, I definitely wouldn't rank 8x and 5x in the same block. I would prioritize 8x because if he's value betting ace 8, blocking that's going to be valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind it. So my main concern with folding here is I think the hand is either going to be close or it's going to be pure call. Like it being like a massive punt pure fold seems tricky to me. Wouldn't you agree?
It's
And whenever
not
that's
gonna
the
be a
case in
massive
game,
point with a pair for this size.
we're pretty polar on the turn for us.
Yeah.
That's like 1/3, right? We can check 25. I don't mind it too much. But yeah, let's take a look at the EV. So 5-4's in against B25.
Because
but some of the
our
5x is
outs
out.
are so clean as well.
Yeah, yeah. So like 9-5s fold mostly. Jack 5, Ace 5, Queen 5.
Yeah.
These low kickers, which I think we explored a little bit, didn't we, with the big blind last week? These low kickers are super powerful when you're looking at defending against bets from the big blinds, especially 10 barrels, river barrels, bluff catching. It's not something we touched on, but like it's a pretty harsh difference between 7-5 and lower, and then these high cards, right? But yeah, 5x is pretty close. 8x is not mixing. You mentioned that, I think, which is really good. His sizing's a little bit bigger, so it's going to be a little bit closer, but I would still defend. Looks fine. Might block the river, super small, but I think it's fine.
I was thinking that, I think, in game.
What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I like not raising here. Just give him a chance to like barrel off Queen Jack off and stuff.
Yeah. So how much check raise would you do in this spot?
Not much.
Is he just mixing? Not much. So my
If I was
instinct is
doing
to
it,
play zero call on
if
this
I was
flop.
doing the, sorry, say again.
So my instinct is to play no calls on this board.
Yeah, because it's paired, and that's usually the case. But I think at this stack depth, it's going to be a little different, right?
I would be more inclined to play raise folds shallower than deeper. Because when you're super deep, when you're 100 big blinds deep, Connor, the bulk of the value range is going to be trips, right?
Yes.
But it's so much easier when you're 10 big blinds effective to check raise ace-x small and get a bunch of value. That's the bulk of the continuing range for me here is just going to be, if not all of it, it's just going to be pure 2-bet. Because I'm happy to make a 2.5 big blinds with ace-4 suited all day long.
Yeah, I was more
And the
concerned.
defending
I
range is
didn't
going to
want him to
be super
fold.
tight.
I wasn't like, I wasn't being careful or anything.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It sucks. Like when he has Jack 10 of spades. Well, Jack 10 of spades is a bad example. You probably continue with that one, but you know, Jack 10 of diamonds. We make it 2.5. Those hands are just drawn dead. But I'm more concerned about how my range wants to VPip in this spot. 6x is definitely going to raise, right? That's going to be the first way we construct a raising range, unless you're playing call fault, which I think is going to be way too much calling. The adjustment I would make if he's going to overfold, for example, would be to just check raise more as a bluff, like check raise any high card heart, like Queen 8 with a heart, Jack 10 with a heart, King 9, King 8 with a heart. That would be my adjustment. But I just think the default strategy on a board like this, on a low paired board, when we're shallow, is going to be 2-bet fold. I think it's more likely that we play raise a fold than we play call fold. Yeah. Because the defending range is going to be so strong. The only thing which I think is going to drive the calls in here is because he's bet one big blind, and the board's ace high, and he's in under the gun range. If that makes sense. But the default strategy for me, just with these boards, is just going to be just 2-bet everything. Just 2-bet a bunch. How deep are we? 16. So we'll go 17 effective.
About what? 10.
Actually, we're going to need to go to the AI, aren't we? Because it's 17. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go. How many chips we got? Like 10. 10 effective pre. I think calling at 20 effective, by the way, makes more sense. If there are some calls, that's where I would do it. So 17. This is pretty good. Where everyone's deeper. Because your continuing range there's going to be ace-x, trips, and flush draws, right? For the most part. Maybe some high cards. You probably want to fold a bunch.
If I'm playing just call.
And then just play a super strong range. So when I'm investing with a range that strong, I'm going to do it with the 2-bet. Obviously, I might look like an idiot and it just calls everything, but yeah, I would raise. And I would just click. I would just make like 2.5.
Why does the AI not want to just bet one big blind?
Just with range.
Yeah. No. You had to adjust it there. Why was it spewing out?
Why does it prefer 25?
Yeah.
There might be some. I mean, first of all, the sizes are almost the same, so I wouldn't assume it's a massive strategic difference. But it is checking a bunch, so I think it's kind of betting as big as it can, because the betting range is a touch more polar than it would be if it was just a linear c-betting range, right? If we're c-betting everything, it's not a polar range. You want to bet everything, high frequency, small size, and I think it's just bringing the sizing up and betting more selectively. But I'm not too sure. I would have used one before seeing the sim. But even with one, it's still checking like 50%. That's us. We're playing around a third.
Ace four suited.
I said I'd make it.
Calls.
Yeah, wrong suit, bro.
For
Nearly.
fuck's sake. Ace four spades.
Nearly got it. But yeah. So I would just pull calls out.
Yeah.
Which is very tight, very linear. 2 better folds, super easy.
Where's the bluffs?
If instead of folding, where are the bluffs? So it's mostly flush draws. There's a little bit of these backdoors coming in. Some of these spades. We've got some high card hearts coming in, which have backdoor straight draws, like Jack 10 with spades and hearts, Queen 10, King 10, a little bit of King Jack in there.
Continue with a raise.
Especially when the board's favourable for us and we have so much of the advantage around 6x. But the only time I'm going to play lots of calls here is if the high card is benefiting the imposition player and we're deeper. Let's say we're 30 big blinds effective and the board's King, King 6. Then I might play a bunch of calls. On a board like this, when the low card is the card that's paired and we're shallow, just 2 better folds, keep it simple. Generate more EV, simplify your strategy. If you think he's folding more than 23%, which I think is pretty fucking reasonable. Like, this defending range is... Actually, it's not that ridiculous, is it? Like, it's backdoor spades. If he c-bets range, it's going to be very hard to defend.
Yeah, let's see a turn.
In that case, I would just check raise. After we check raise, you mean? So we 2-bet.
Deuce.
Deuce is a bit of a blank. We mix. We bet small sometimes. We jam sometimes. Ace 4's just checking. We jam a little higher up with these.
Leave it after this hand. We'll see how the shorter YouTube video does compared to the ones that are over an hour.
You want to finish up to this one, yeah?
Yeah.
Wrap up with this one. I would probably lead the turn as well sometimes. Because what's your range now after this? A lot of
Well,
fucking boats.
I have a bunch of one heart hands as well.
I mean, there's going to be a little bit of that, but most of this calling range is going to be like flush draws and boats, right? So you've got a range in position, which is uncapped, which is why I would probably bet small, but which still carries hands like 10-9 of diamonds. He's going to have a lot of air in this range. We're going to have 0 air. We're going to have good access to the nuts with ace-x, because this is probably how you're going to call mostly, right? I can't imagine you could check calling a bunch of 6x. Maybe you are. Sounds like you were concerned he's going to fold a bunch. But our range after we check all that flop is super strong. So it'll be interesting. It might check a bunch. It might check a bunch, but I would probably throw a small bet out there personally. I'll probably bet. Yeah, it's mostly checking though. So when you do play the call node, the ace doesn't favor us too much. Because he still dominates all of it. You see at the top there, we're still kind of fucked. The solver's stripping out a bunch of aces on the flop. But yeah, footnotes. We got a 2-bet these spots a bunch. Like you can just pull this call out completely. And if we look at the EV, you're not gonna lose any. So EV for us is 1.51, 27% ish. Just pull the call out. And go back to the node. It's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you capture the same amount of EV. You do it with a simpler strategy that you're probably going to be able to execute better. So it's just better all around. So yeah, I would 2-bet. But yeah, we'll finish there, Connor. Good stuff.
Cool. Thanks everybody. 10% off HRC and GtoWizard in the description. Thanks Caldini. We'll see you next week.